Hello, welcome back to the Freelancer Tea Break, the short and sweet podcast you can enjoy whilst you're making a cuppa. My name is Emma Cossey. I'm a coach and mentor for freelancers. And I know what you're thinking, Emma, it's December. The last thing I want to do is more admin. And I get it, I promise. But in this episode, I just wanted to share a few things that will kind of round off the year and mean that when you come back in January, you will feel so much more clear-headed and hopefully a little bit smug as well. So grab your tea and maybe a notepad to note some of these things down, and let's get started. So the first thing I would say is the best thing to do is to review all your invoices. So are there any that you need to chase? Bear in mind that a lot of people will be doing their payroll a little bit earlier for December, or they might be going on holiday earlier. You want to do this at the start of the month. So are there any that you've got to chase? Is there any expenses you've got to send over? Try and get it in earlier if you can. The other side of this is that January is self-assessment time. And if you haven't already done that, then you want to make sure the invoices, that side of the admin is done in December so that January you can focus on the other bits. You might also want to use this as an opportunity to check your invoice template. I've been using the same one for years, so this is actually going to be something I'm going to be doing. So check that the bank details are all there, that the address, the email address, all that is still correct. And even things like, are you still using an old logo? Things like that. So have a quick review of your invoices. Second thing to do is update your out of office. So hopefully if you're going to take some time off, you'll be putting your out of office on. And quite often it's very easy to just go in, quickly change the message on there and stick on your standard out of office message. But your out of office message is actually a really good opportunity to give people information if they've emailed you and you're out of office. So one of the things that I recommend people do is add in like a little mini frequently asked questions in your email. So say somebody's contacting you about wanting to arrange a meeting, you could have your meeting booking link in there or a link to your services. Also check all the other links are still working and they're still relevant. I realised I have a Twitter link in one of mine a while ago, so I obviously had to go in and remove that because as I would never be on X now. And yeah, make sure that everything is still up to date, relevant. The other thing you might want to think about is, do you offer some kind of email opt-in or freebie or anything like that? You can pop the link in there as well. So there's lots of ways of doing that. And lots of email signature services now that make your email signature just a little bit nicer. Third thing is have a quick look over your terms and conditions. Do they need updating? I would particularly suggest looking at things like AI and how you use it or how other people can use your work in it, or limitations around that, and copyright and things like that. But just have a quick look over, and if you don't have your terms and conditions yet, please do this. This has got to be your thing that you've got to do by the end of the year, because honestly, having terms and conditions makes so much sense and it makes everything so much easier when you have something to refer back to that your client has signed and you've agreed those terms and conditions. So if they pay late or they push boundaries or anything like that, you can refer back to those terms and conditions. So far, let's review your invoices, update your out of office, and review your terms and conditions. I would say the next thing is have a look at your client list for the year and try and have a look at sort of any trends. So is there a particular way that a lot of your clients have found you or you found your clients this year? What seems to be working, what doesn't? It's also worth looking at which of those clients were dreamy clients and which ones were a little bit of a nightmare. And why do you think that was? Because it can really help then understand what kind of content you need to be putting out next year and what you need to be doing in order to attract more of those dreamy clients. And also, it will probably remind you who you're going to contact in the new year to check in and see if they've got any work coming up. Because those dreamy clients, you want them at the top of your list. You might also, as well, just on that one, is you might want to send them a little thank you message or a card or something like that in December and just check in and just say, thank you so much for your business this year. I really appreciate working with you. So your next thing to do, and this, I will allow this to be pushed back to January if you need to, but it's a good time to check your rates. Are they still competitive? Especially with this year, so many services and softwares that freelancers use have gone up in price, and quite significantly in a lot of cases. Do you need to increase your rates to cover that? So are your rates still sustainable? And when did you last increase them? Do you try and increase them every year or even every couple of years? I would definitely review whether you're due to have an increase. And January is actually a really good time to increase them, because you can say, we're into a fresh new year, I've reviewed where I am, I will be increasing my rates. And I do have some templates for that kind of thing in my Tricky Client Conversations bundle, which I'll link to in the comments. But yes, definitely, with everything increasing recently, it's definitely worth looking at whether you need to increase your rate. Also, if your skills have improved or your experience has improved, these are all reasons you need to up your rates. And finally, do something nice for you. Like, finish the year doing something really lovely. You might be reorganising your desk so it's a much nicer place to work. You might even want to look in the Black Friday sales to see if there's, Black Friday sales have been gone now, but the Christmas sales, to see if there's that second monitor that will make your working life a lot easier. Maybe it's time to look at upgrading your chair. So have a look at all those kind of things. So what could make your workplace feel a bit better? So those are some of the things to think about as a freelancer for your admin. I'd love to know if you give any of those a try. And if you think this is useful for other freelancers, please do forward it on, or take a minute to give the show a rating. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next week for another episode of the Freelancers Tea Break.